I was very fortunate to work at Kennedy Space Center and had a chance to acknowledge all the historical sites and where these guys were living, and where they were driving their motorcycles, and the bars and everything. The history, and smell it, where where everything started. And yet, Apollo and Neil Armstrong first step on the moon, and technology has advanced so much, but I feel like NASA has not really advanced when it comes to human space exploration.
Well, I would have to agree with you about NASA. It's like every other part of government has become too bureaucratized, and we don't move as fast as we probably should in terms of projects and where we need to be. If you think about what you just talked about, you talked about Alan Shepard, who I grew up in the town next to Alan Shepard from New Hampshire. So he was my hero growing up. Part of the reasons why I wanted to be an astronaut was because Alan Shepard was an astronaut, and The Right Stuff, the great book by Tom Wolfe, the movie. When I was 12, my grandfather took me outside and said, "Look at the moon." He goes, "There are people right now, when you're looking at it, they're walking on it." And I was blown away. I was like, I want to do that. And I always had that in the back of my head. And if you consider that it's leadership, it's vision, it's driven by a leader who has a vision, who can make that march through the bureaucracy and see it to fruition. And I'm talking about JFK here. Because he said, and let's face it, even back then it was politically driven, because Russia and the U.S., Khrushchev and JFK were, banging heads, and they had just put up Sputnik and Yuri Gagarin, and we were behind in the race. And President Kennedy just came and boldly, he just made a proclamation. He didn't have anything in terms of the technological base set to go, but he believed in America and the American people and industry. In 8.5 years, from the time he said that, we had nothing. We started at JSC in Houston, Texas, KSC, Kennedy Space Center, which was originally Canaveral and later named for John F. Kennedy, but nothing. So we went from a cow pasture with no tech, nothing built, no spacecraft, anything. In 8.5 years, we landed men on the moon. Now think about that. In terms of the not so technological technology that we had back then, where we had in the lunar module and the lander less computer capacity than you have in your smartphone today. A smartphone is astronomically more powerful in I/O than input output. Yeah,
that's amazing.
But they did it in 8.5 years. So now things have slowed down, and I think that it's a good thing. We have Jeff Bezos with Blue Origin, Elon Musk with SpaceX, Branson with Virgin Galactic, all coming on strong. And you can liken this to look back at the Wright brothers in the early days, the Montgolfier brothers, who flew balloons first before anybody, then the Wright brothers. It always takes explorers and people with vision to come out and say, we're going to do this. Musk has already said he's going to Mars. Wow. And he may be on Mars before any government ever gets there. He may mount this. And Jeff Bezos is going to build a spacecraft called Glenn, which is bigger than the Saturn V, along with Musk. So I see these guys doing this, and I root for them because it's all good. It drives. It's not competition between NASA and the commercial sector, because NASA funds the commercial sector. NASA funds SpaceX, and they want that. They want the technology, and they want new vehicles. So while NASA builds, SpaceX builds, Virgin Galactic builds, they're suborbital, but maybe they'll go orbital, and then Blue Origin. But I truly think that is like hybrid vigor, and that's good for everyone, and that's good for us as a species, because it's going to allow more and more people to get into space. And there's a switch that flips when you get into space and you look back at the planet. So the more people we can get up there to look down at our planet and realize what a small, tiny little planet we live on. It's not infinite. I mean, we sit here now and, we look at the vineyards, and we're in Spain, and it's an immense planet, and it takes forever to get from point to point. When you're in space, every 90 minutes you're around the planet, and you realize it's just a very small little blue gem in a small little solar system, in a small galaxy, in a universe with billions of galaxies. So what else is out there? I as a human being, and I think our species, we're just driven. We have to know that. And I truly believe that, like I said, 1,000 years from now, we'll have done some pretty major things in terms of space exploration.